welcome. Now, if you and your learning community are working to ensure that the learning truly sticks for all your students, but you sometimes struggle because you've got so much content to get through, this is the interview for you. Now, I'm in Melbourne with this amazing teacher, Sonia Singh, and Sonia took our online course, How to Unleash Learning, and went to town with really the information that you learned, and that's why I wanted to speak to you. So she's gonna give you some tips that you can use immediately in your classroom to help content stick for your students. So Sonia, thank you for being here.
You're
you know,
welcome.
I'm a huge fan of what you've done and your enthusiasm for what we do in this profession. So you took the online program and you kind of went to town with what you learned in that program. So my question to you is, what was one of your takeaways around the classroom setup and design? What was your takeaway for that?
Yes, thank you, Will. I guess I was very lucky that I took your course at the right time. My initial takeaway is that as a teacher, there is just so much on our shoulders. And I wanted to make like half my burden that way. So I looked at my classroom wall and I felt there's so much I can do to enhance and boost my students' learning. So my main takeaway is that I should look upon it as something that is proactive. So I kind of strategized where I wanted information put. So my main thing is that I wanted to use my classroom walls as actually a critical resource. Because when students walk into a class, they're actually very observant, my students. So they immediately pick up on things. So that's the main thing that I thought about, how I want to lower the filters so that when students walk in, because they come from diverse backgrounds, so it just lowers their filters and they see color on the walls and they see important words that they can use in their learning.
You know, one of the things that you did, so on Module 2, we did the whole thing about that classroom setup, and then we talked about the walls and all the stuff you learned, but you did something a little bit different. And can you talk about, because one of the things that we often do is just put stuff on the walls, but you were strategic about how you did that in the headers. So can you talk about what you did?
Absolutely. So the key word is to strategize. So what I did was, when I first started, I guess as teachers, we all make mistakes, all right? So what I had
Me too,
was...
all the time.
So what I did was, I put a bit of thought into it and I said the best way to do it is actually to have some headings and I put them in bright yellow with black font, and I've got like headings such as tools for student success. So when they enter the classroom, what they see is actually the school values. They see posters on how important reading is, because at this school, students read for 10 minutes. And there are posters that tell them that if they read for 20 minutes every day, at the end of the year, they have 1.8 million words. So isn't that fantastic for students to know? And I've got my seating plans, and you talked about seating plans. And I switch it around, so students actually are placed with people who they work well with. And then as you move along, use my board in a very systematic manner. So students walk in, when they write their Cornell notes, everything is on the board. The word walls are fantastic. My students love it. They've given me some feedback. Would you mind if I read some of the feedback?
Can I ask one quick question though? Because what you did, and I just want to make sure we get it, is that a lot of times there's just stuff on the walls, but when you took the course, what you did is reorganize them.
Yes, I did.
And so students know now where stuff is in this room. So you've got a word wall, you've got this for this, you got, and so they're really clear about what it is, and it's set up for their success in many kinds of ways. Which brings me to the feedback. That's what I want to hear about. So you've organized the walls in really strategic ways, and you've put headers, which we'll show in the video. So what has been the outcomes either you've noticed as a teacher or the students are actually telling you that are the outcomes for how you've organized the walls?
All right, if I just share the story with you, is that my students actually have come up to me and they've told me, like, we really like that there's color in the room. We like that you've got words on the wall that actually link into what we are writing in class. So they're actually finding that the words are useful, and they're using the words on the wall, they're using the vocab list. They're also they're admiring actually at the back here, as you can see, student work from other classes. They're learning from other students. I mean, you talked about metacognition. So it's all about them realizing that learning is just not done in a vacuum. They're collaborating with others. So the headers definitely help. And I think more and more students are telling me that when we do quick writes, we do power writes, because we start every lesson with writing, we end with writing. You're right. We picked up that from you. But it's great because students, I kind of observe, I do a bit of live scoring while they're doing their quick writes or sustained silent writing.
Yeah.
Their eyes are wandering around the room and they're looking at words and then there's a little smile there that comes up and they're writing and they're realizing that this is a good critical resource for them.
So you've used the walls. I mean, if I'm a student here learning the content, I know where the content is and I can use it if I'm writing or reading or lifting the weights. There's all the tools to do that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So students are really lifting the weights because they practice it. So you know how a lot of social constructivists actually talk about how learning happens meaningfully when students make that, they pay attention, yes.
That's right.
But there's also the second stage, which is retention. They store it in their memory. And then there's that reproduction stage where we get them to lift the weights. So they're practicing what they're learning. So works done by educational researchers such as Bandura, Vygotsky, it all kind of fits in because Vygotsky talks about the zone of proximal development.
Right.
So it's about what learners, is the distance between what they cannot do without any help or what they can achieve without help, and then how much they can achieve when a teacher, or he uses the term the more knowledgeable other, how that just provides a lot of scaffolding and it just makes them feel it's a rewarding experience. So it just enhances their experience in the classroom.
Pardon me interrupting, we talk about the classroom as a key that unleashes learning, and that's what this room does. Absolutely. Is exactly what you're talking about. So let's ask them a question, and we've got a question for you. So Sonia took our online course and she really did some stuff around the classroom setup, but specifically the walls and how she organized the content on the walls. So our question for you is, what do you do in your classroom that helps learning stick? What is your strategy for the classroom setup design? We'd love to hear from you. As always, some of the best discussions take place in the comment section of that blog. So don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you and get the conversation going. And while you're there, we've got the ultimate classroom setup guide. So we'll show you how to set up your classroom in a way that gets content to stick and to build community like you're doing here. So Sonia, thank you so much for what you do every day, what you do for students. This room, you know, I'd want to be here if I was a student. So you've done that. And as always, we want to thank you for the work you're doing for the world. We are cheering you on. Remember, those classroom walls are a strategy to help all students set up for success. And we will see you next time. We'll see you then.